So, welcome to this week's episode of Dating After a Toxic Relationship. I'm a little bit late today. I had a kind of a busy day yesterday, so I had some free time today, so playing catch up. Anyway, so on today's episode, we're going to be talking about recovery. Recovery after a toxic relationship, or any relationship actually, and how important it is to do before you start dating again, before you even start thinking about dating again. So I think I'm just going to kind of go and give a little bit of my own background to how this was, because I recovered, still in recovery, but I was single for about 5 years or so before I started to like seriously date. Um, so it was about 11 months ago when I met someone. I went on a date with someone and didn't think anything of it. Didn't think really much of it, because weeks before I went on this date, months maybe before that, my therapist was like, it's time for you to start dating. And I wasn't really sure if I was ready. I was kind of ready, but kind of not ready, because I think you have all the fears. My biggest thing was I'm afraid of being cheated on again. I'm afraid of being hit again. I'm afraid of being called names again. I'm afraid of losing my life and losing my identity, because I had worked so hard to build it up. I was so comfortable in my space between no longer and not yet. But I knew at some point I was going to date again. At first, when I was writing my book, I was like, no way, I'm never doing this again. I'm never setting myself up for this kind of pain or anything like that ever again. But over time, after I was really healing, really recovering, really feeling like it might be time for me to do this, my therapist was like, okay, let's kind of put yourself out there and see how it goes. So, of course, I have so many stories of different people I met, different dates I went on, how I met different people and stuff like that. And it was basically, I was out there to learn, go out with people, meet people, see if there was a connection, see how it went, and learn a lot about my preferences, like what I liked, what I didn't like. And the most important thing was to learn how to say no. Like, no, I don't want to do this, or no, I don't want to see you again, no, thank you. I had to have the conversation with somebody about just not really being interested in them. We went on 2 dates. I wasn't feeling it, and I guess he could kind of tell, because he had asked me about it. He's like, are we like more friends or what? And I was like, yeah, probably more friends. Never talked to him again, but that's fine. That's how it goes when you're dating, I guess, and turns into friends. You never speak to them again. Which, why would you have enough friends? But this one was different. This one was different. This one was very different. This one was like one of those, you sort of find what you're looking for when you're not looking for it. I don't believe in love at first sight. Love is such a strong, powerful thing. I do believe in something at first sight. Like, this is going to be something. I don't know what, but something. And I was right. And the thing about it for me is, in order to find the guy you want, you have to be the kind of woman that he may want. If you want a good guy, you have to be a good woman. You have to figure out yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to be comfortable with yourself. You have to do all that. And that's not easy. And that's why, for me, I spent such a long time single, where I wasn't looking, I wasn't trying to be with anyone. I was not paying attention to what society was telling me. I was doing my own thing. I was living my own life, figuring out who I was. And when I met him, I was sort of coming into myself, where I had started working out again. I started doing different things I really wasn't doing, and then I met him, and he, over the months, has kind of helped me to blossom a little bit, I guess you could say. But learning about relationships and learning about different people and what a healthy relationship looks like isn't super easy, because I was never in a healthy relationship, I guess, until now. And it's been really difficult trying to like maneuver that and figure it out. It's been super fun, obviously, but it's also like, oh my goodness, so the dating aspects of it after a toxic relationship can be so complicated. It's so you're afraid of different things happening, and over time, slowly, you start to trust someone. You start to realize that they're not your ex. You start to get more comfortable being yourself. You start to say things like, these are the things I need, these are the things I don't want. It kind of annoys me when you do this, it makes me feel good when you do that. It's nice to have that communication without repercussions, without, being told you're needy or you're whatever, when literally you're just saying the stuff that you like and the stuff that you don't like. It's a whole different experience, it's a whole different feel. But how do you get to that place is the question that so many people ask on a regular basis. Like, how do you get there? Well, you get there, first of all, by letting go of something so toxic in your life. And that's not easy. It's not easy to let go of something toxic because we were conditioned to, feel like we needed them. Like, we needed to be with this person. And if we're not with this person, nobody else will be with us. I was told that for such a long time, that nobody will ever love me. Nobody will ever think I'm good enough. Nobody will ever want to be with me. And that was embedded into my head. And I had to work really hard to get that out of my head. And I did. It took me a long time, but it's finally gone. We are abused in so many different ways: mental, physical, emotional, and financial. Financial abuse is no joke. That's something that I don't think enough people really talk about when they're talking about toxic relationships, where when I got into my relationship with the toxic person, I had money in the bank, I had, credit, I had all this. And then when he finally left, I had no money in the bank, I was in debt, and I had to climb out of that hole. So that also took me a good solid few years to climb out of that hole and get back to a whole person, not just, physically ready or mentally ready, but ready at all aspects. Because when you meet someone, you don't want to have to rely on them for finances. You don't want to have to rely on them and say, oh no, I'm in this big financial situation, can you help me? No, get yourself out of that. So you've got to be financially ready for this too. And I know it's not easy for everyone, and it took me years to finally get to a place where I was happy with it, where I wasn't in debt anymore, where there wasn't a financial issue. It took me a long time to get there, because the toxic people really do come in and they just suck everything out of you, and it's just not easy. But after letting go of that toxic relationship and walking away from it, at that point, then you feel as if you're just in a cave where it's like you're coming off of a high or whatever from drugs. Like, you want that hit. You want to be able to talk to them. You want to be able to see them. And if you can just talk to them for 2 seconds, you'll feel so much better. And you do feel better. But then the healing starts all over again. And then you find yourself back to square one. So over time, you finally learn, when you say goodbye for the last time, you mean it. They have no idea you mean it. But there comes a point where you do say goodbye for the last time. And I know sometimes people are the ones that leave. Oh, I'm leaving and doing this. But just because they left doesn't mean that toxic person's not trying to get in touch with them. And sometimes the toxic person leaves, but they usually don't go super far. They usually need you for something. So for me, when I finally did my final goodbye, which was my final goodbye, I then began to heal. I then began to completely fall apart and then rebuild myself. I attended Celebrate Recovery. I attended meetings. I saw my therapist a bunch. I sat in the darkness and cried. I skipped weddings and birthday parties and baby showers and nights out with my friends because I couldn't function. I couldn't figure out how to put myself together and leave the house because I was such a mess, because I had been in that toxic relationship for 5 years. So it's 5 years of just pure agony, kind of pouring out of you and wondering why am I not good enough? How did this happen? Blah, blah. Thinking you can save someone, thinking that you can love the darkness out of someone will suck the light out of you. And you will be the one that's left in the darkness. You will be the one that has no light. Your light cannot shine for 2 people. It shines for 1 person, and that's you. So if you're giving your light away to someone else, he's not going to, or she's not going to replenish that. They're not going to give you back that light. They're taking it because you're giving it. And you don't know what you're doing wrong until one day when it's all gone. You've been left and you're alone and you're broke and you have terrible credit Your kids don't want anything to do with you. Your friends are kind of fed up, and your family is too. And you sit there and you think, wow, I really ran my life off into a ditch. Now what? Well, now you pick up the pieces. Now you start building your life again. You get help. You recover from this. You heal from this. So after mine ended, I remember going on a date right away because I thought I had to. I thought, well, if he's going to be with somebody, then I should be with somebody too, and I'm going to do this. And I tried really hard to try to make that work, that one horrible, awful date that I forced myself onto. And then I did it a few more times and finally realizing I need to heal. I need to be on my own. And then I was. I sat in the darkness for a long time. And then the light started to crack in a little bit. And I started to pick myself up and heal and put one foot in front of the other. I started by going to my meetings, realizing the problems I had that led me into a toxic relationship. Had to forgive myself, which is so hard to do. And then I started to repair relationships and friendships with my friends, my family, and my kids, especially my family. I had to repair my relationship with my sister. When my sister walked out of my life, that was a huge wake-up call for me. My sister, not like, someone you just met or whatever, and when she walked out of my life, she took my niece and my nephew with her. My niece and my nephew. And that was really hard for me. So that when I was ready to make that phone call, I did. And I asked her if I could come back. And she said yes. But of course, on like a trial basis. And I worked really hard to get that relationship back. And I did. And I still work on that relationship. We're the best of friends now today because I was able to heal and recover, because I was able to admit that I was angry and I was codependent and I was narcissistic and I was all of these things that I needed to recover from. I needed to become a different person. I no longer have an anger problem. Or maybe I always will, I don't know, but it hasn't come out in a very, very long time. I'm ridiculously patient now. I even sometimes surprise myself. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So from there, I had to repair those relationship with my sister, my brother, which wasn't easy. I did that. I remember going home back to Boston. I went on a little tour, I called it, meeting with friends and family and apologizing and saying, you know what, I really messed this up and I'm healing. And out of all the people that walked out, I got 100% of them back, which took a lot of work. So during these 5 years when I was single, I wasn't just like hanging out by myself, not really doing much. I was working on myself. I was repairing those relationships. I was, believe it or not, repairing the relationship with my ex-husband because I was super abusive to him. So I had to build up trust with him again. We have 3 kids together, so that was super important for me and for my kids to see their parents getting along really well, and we do. We get along really well. Now we do. I had to repair the relationship with my kids and earn their trust back. That wasn't easy. It's when you're in a toxic relationship, there's a certain degree of it that's super selfish because all you're doing is thinking about yourself. And you might sit there and be like, no, I'm thinking about him. Yeah, you're thinking about him, but because you're solely thinking about him, you're just focusing on what you need and what you want. You're not focused on what's best for you or what's best for your kids. If you have kids and you're in a toxic relationship, one of 2 things will happen. Either they will go on to be abused the same way you are being abused, or they're going to be the abuser. So it's one or the other. You're not going to have a healthy kid come out of a relationship like that. You're not. I don't care what anyone says. You're not going to be able to have that. That's going to jack up those kids, and that is your fault. That realistically is your fault. That's not like victim shaming. I'm telling you exactly what it is, your fault. So, and I know for me, I did a number on my kids, and that's still not easy for me to deal with. So I had to earn their trust back, and I did. I still have, remnants of that going on sometimes, and that's never easy. But after being able to repair those relationships, then I had to figure out who I was. Who am I? Who are you after a 20-something year marriage? Who are you after an abusive relationship? Who are you just as a human? So I remember one day my therapist saying to me, what kind of a woman do you want to be? I know I've talked about this a few times before, but not what kind of wife, not what kind of mom, not what kind of sister, not what kind of friend, but what kind of a woman do you want to be? And that really struck a chord with me. And I didn't want to be the same woman that I had been. I didn't. I wanted to be a better woman. And I am now. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't something that happened overnight. I had to let go of that toxic relationship and essentially a lot that came with it. I had to repair the relationships with people in my life, and then I had to repair the relationship with myself. Then I had to live. So it's not like you wake up one day and you're healed and you're healthy and now it's like, oh, it's a brand new day. This is going to be amazing. No, you have to live and figure out who you are. So I did. So I found out that I do like wine. I found out that I'm not a huge fan of scary movies. I found out that I'm okay going to galas by myself. I found out that I love Italy. Oh my gosh, I love Italy. I thought that was such a great place to visit. I found out I'm super strong. I am independent, that I can make financial decisions that may or may not backfire on me, but I can still do it. I can take care of myself. I can cook. Was never much of a cook. I mean, I had chef for years. What's her first name? Don't know. Called her chef. But like, found out that I'm capable of a lot of stuff. I found out that I can write a book, that I can be a podcast host, that I can help other people, that I can become certified in helping people get through their toxic relationships and then help them date after. I found out that I can love again. And that was probably the best thing that I think I found out about myself, because you don't think you can. You don't think you can. You don't think that you'll be capable of that. But you are. You're very much capable of that. And it's a good feeling. And when you meet someone that treats you like a human, it's a whole new level. And it's possible. It's possible if you heal. It's possible if you work on yourself. It's possible if you really want it. It's possible if you set aside what society says about being single and learn to become secure by yourself and spend time with yourself. Figure out who you are, what you'll put up with and what you won't. But then after that, after you do meet someone, you start dating, then you figure out who you are while you're dating. And I didn't realize that was something I had to figure out when I had my first fight. What was I going to do? How was I going to react? In my last relationships, I would react one way. And with this person, I'm reacting in a completely different way, which is pretty much not at all. Where I'm very, like, I'm not happy right now, I'm going to leave. And he's not going to try to get me to stay to argue with me. He's going to be like, then go. That's amazing. Where you have two people who don't want to fight and don't want to argue, who may need their space apart and then discuss what happened later in a normal civilized manner. That's all new to me. Being with a healthy person is all very new to me. It's amazing. It's great. I love it. I'm having like so much fun with it, learning a lot. Of course, I get frustrated because no one is perfect. I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. He is definitely two handfuls, but totally worth it so far. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. But right now, I'm super happy. I've never been this happy before. I think he's pretty much the most amazing thing ever. But healing is the way to get to something like that. Healing and figuring out who you are, figuring out why you got into something toxic and why you stayed. And it's okay. For whatever reason it was, it's okay. For me, I had a toxic mom that taught me to treat men like garbage. So I taught my ex-husband, I treated him like garbage. And then I just had karma kind of come back and say, yeah, no, this isn't how it goes. Realizing I didn't want to be that kind of a woman anymore, and I'm not. Now I'm very different. But staying in a toxic relationship is really tough and it does mess you up a lot. So when you do come out of something like that, you do have to get help. You have to get into a recovery program. You have to stop dating. You don't just leave. You don't get cheated on and hit and called names and then break up and then 2 weeks later start swiping on an app, because you're only going to hurt yourself and you're only going to hurt the person that you're going to be going out with. So you have to recover. You have to heal. The scariest thing is being alone. People don't want to be alone. They're so afraid of being alone. I remember when I was first alone, I was like, any day now I'm going to combust. Any day now something's going to happen and I'm going to have 10 cats eating my dead body and no one's ever going to find me. That doesn't happen. Like, you're not going to combust. You're not going to explode. You're not going to shrivel up and die into a pile of ashes because you're by yourself. Spend time alone. Face that fear of being alone, because even when you do get into a relationship, the guy or the girl that you're with isn't always going to be there, like, at all. They're not always going to be there. They're going to either have to work or they're going to have their own life. You have to have your own life in order for you to build a life with someone else. Because if you don't have your own identity, then you're going to get wrapped up in someone else. And if that ends, you're going to be at ground zero again. Right now, I have it set up where if something happens and this doesn't work out, I'm going to be okay. I have my own life that I'm living on top of the life I want to build with him. So if something does happen, it obviously will be sad and probably destroy me for a little while, but then I'll be okay. It's not going to be the way it was after my toxic relationship ended. It's not going to be that devastating. I'm going to be okay because I set myself up that way, because I have a good support system, because I do have my own life, because I am independent. And the thing with being an independent woman isn't, oh, I'm an independent woman, I don't need a man. An independent woman is someone, who can pay her own bills, who can do her own thing, who can go to an event by themselves without the other person. I personally am going to a Halloween party on Halloween, and he's working. What am I going to do? Stay home and not go live my life and not hang out with my friends? He's working. I'm going to go to, and he probably wouldn't have that any other way. So you have to be able to maintain your independence while you're with someone. So if you're with someone and you're saying, I'm going to go to a Halloween party, and they're like, no, you're not, because I can't go, then you're probably with the wrong person. And then if you're with someone and you're like, oh, he can't go, so I'm not going, you might want to get a little bit of help there, because you should be, if you don't want to go, that's one thing, but you shouldn't be staying home waiting for someone or not living your life just because someone else can't do it with you. You're perfectly capable of going to a Halloween party by yourself. You're perfectly capable of going out and getting a slice of cake if you want it. You're perfectly capable of doing whatever it is that you want. You don't have to have another person with you constantly. That's one thing that I learned, where I can do my own thing and be with somebody, and that's okay, because they're not always going to be with you. They're not always going to be available to escort you wherever it is you need to go, or wherever it is you want to go. It's always great if they can go, but if not, don't sit on the sidelines. You have to live your life. And that's where you'll discover that about yourself, in that space between no longer and not yet, in that space where it starts out super, super dark and cold and it's scary and you are definitely alone. But then the longer you spend in there, the more comfortable you get, and the more you start to learn about yourself, and the more you start to fall in love with yourself. And then after that, the kind of man or woman you attract is going to be the kind you deserve. They say we date at like our level, and I kind of think that's true. Because if you're feeling miserable and terrible about yourself and then you're going to attract people who are going to treat you like that. But if you're feeling great about yourself and you're feeling positive about yourself, you're going to attract people that feel the same way. So you should always, always love yourself like this much more than what you love someone else. So when something goes haywire, you can walk away from it. It's painful to walk away, but you'll still be capable of walking away. Because sometimes as adults, we have to make decisions we don't want to make because it's what's best for us. It's not always easy to walk away from someone that we love, but if someone that we love isn't treating us a certain way, then we shouldn't be staying there. We have to love ourselves a little bit more and give ourselves more credit than that. So recovery is huge, and it's scary, and it's not easy. It's not easy to face yourself in the mirror and say, wow, these are the reasons why I did this. These are the reasons why this is happening, because usually it's our own fault. And I'm not saying that you, like the person you're with, is okay for the way they treat you in any way, shape, or form, but we can't always talk about them We have to figure out our own stuff and why we stayed and why it took us so long to like get out of that. Once we figure out why, then we can start building a different life, a life that we deserve, a life where we can allow someone to come in and truly love us. So, biggest thing is recovering and healing before dating again. Anyway, so thanks for listening to this little video. Check out my book, Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind. Lots of information in that thing about my own personal relationships with abusing my ex and then getting into a toxic relationship and then getting out. Also, follow me on social media. KellySmithAuthor.com is my website, so check it out.